Bally's Hotel, Las Vegas. December 1991. Dean Martin hadn't wanted to perform in 4 years, not since March 21st, 1987. The day his son, Dean Paul Martin, died in a plane crash over the San Bernardino Mountains. Dean Paul was 35 years old, Air National Guard pilot, actor, athlete, the son who looked just like Dean, who had his father's smile, who was supposed to outlive him by decades. They found the wreckage on a snowy mountainside, what was left of Dean Paul, fit in a box, small enough to carry with one hand. After that, Dean stopped. Not gradually, instantly. He cancelled his tour, stopped recording, stopped performing. He retreated to his Beverly Hills home and essentially waited to die. Friends would visit and find him sitting in his den, staring at photos of Dean Paul, a glass of real scotch in his hand. This time, no more apple juice pretending. Frank Sinatra tried everything. Phone calls, visits, begging. "Come back, Dino. The world needs you. I need you." Dean would just shake his head. "What's the point, Pally? I sang for 50 years. I made people laugh. I made people happy. And my boy still died. What's the point of any of it?" By 1991, Dean was 74 years old and looked 90. The cancer was eating him from the inside. Emphysema made every breath a struggle. His hands shook. His voice, once smooth as silk, had turned gravelly and weak. He'd lost 40 pounds. His famous tuxedos hung on him like curtains. But Frank wouldn't give up. In November 1991, Frank came to Dean's house with an idea that was either brilliant or cruel, depending on how you looked at it. "One more show, Dino. Just one. Not a tour. Not a comeback. Just one night. Me and you. Like the old days." Dean looked at Frank like he was insane. "I can't, Frank. Look at me. I can barely walk to the bathroom without getting winded. How am I supposed to perform?" "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be there. With me. One last time." "Why? What's the point?" Frank's voice got quiet. "Serious. Because Dean Paul would want you to. Because sitting in this house, waiting to die, isn't honoring his memory. It's surrendering to it. And you're not a quitter, Dino. You never have been." That hit something deep. Dean's eyes filled with tears. "That's a low blow, Francis." "I know, but it's true. Your son was a fighter, Air National Guard. He flew missions. He pushed himself. He lived. And you're just existing. That's not what he'd want." Dean was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that made Frank's heart break. "I don't remember how to do it anymore. How to be that guy on stage. How to make people happy when I'm this sad." Frank sat down next to him. "You don't have to make people happy. You just have to show up. Let them see you. Let them say goodbye. Let yourself say goodbye." "Goodbye to what?" "To the old Dean. To the stage. To the life you had before. You've been in limbo for 4 years. Pally, maybe one last show gives you permission to move on, or at least to stop feeling guilty for still being alive." 3 weeks later, Dean agreed. One show, December 1991, Bally's Hotel. The announcement went out, and tickets sold out in 47 minutes. People flew in from around the world, not to see a great performance. They knew Dean wasn't capable of that anymore. They came to witness, to pay respects, to see a legend one last time. The night of the show, backstage at Bally's, Dean sat in his dressing room staring at himself in the mirror. The man looking back was a stranger. Hollow cheeks, sunken eyes, trembling hands. This wasn't the king of cool. This was a ghost wearing his tuxedo. There was a knock at the door. Frank walked in, already dressed for his portion of the show. He looked at Dean and his face fell. "You okay?" "No. I'm terrified, Frank. What if I forget the words? What if my voice cracks? What if I can't make it through a whole song?" Frank pulled up a chair and sat directly in front of Dean. "Then you forget the words. Your voice cracks. You don't make it through. And you know what? Everyone in that audience will love you anyway, because they're not here for perfection, Dino. They're here for you." Dean's voice broke. "I miss him so much, Frank. Every single day. Every single minute. I wake up, and for 1 second, I forget he's gone. And then I remember, and it's like he dies all over again." Frank grabbed Dean's hands. I know, Pally. But you know what? For the next 90 minutes, you get to do what Dean Paul loved watching you do. You get to be his dad. The dad who made magic on stage. The dad he was so proud of. You get to honor him by being you. Tears were streaming down Dean's face, ruining his makeup. "What if I can't? Then I'll carry you. Literally, if I have to. But you won't need me to. Because once that spotlight hits you, once you hear that crowd, muscle memory's gonna kick in. You're gonna be okay." Dean wiped his eyes. "How do you know?" "Because I know you. And I know that underneath all this pain, underneath all this grief, there's still a little piece of Dino from Steubenville who just wants to sing. Let him out. One more time." They sat there in silence for a moment. Then Dean said something that Frank would remember for the rest of his life. "If I die up there tonight, Frank, I want you to know something. You've been the best friend a guy could have. You never gave up on me, even when I gave up on myself. Thank you." Frank's voice was thick with emotion. "You're not gonna die up there, but if you did, what a way to go. Doing what you love, with your best friend watching. Your son would approve." The stage manager knocked. "Mr. Martin, 5 minutes." Dean stood up. Frank helped him into his jacket, adjusted his bow tie, smoothed down his lapels, like a brother helping a groom get ready for his wedding. Except this felt more like preparing for a funeral. They walked to the wings together. Dean could hear the crowd on the other side of the curtain. Thousands of people, all waiting for him, all hoping he could give them one more moment of magic. "I don't know if I can do this," Dean whispered. Frank squeezed his shoulder. "Yes, you do. And yes, you can. I'll be right here. Every second. I got you." The announcer's voice boomed through the sound system. "Ladies and gentlemen, live from Bali's Las Vegas, the one, the only, Mr. Dean Martin." The crowd erupted. The curtain opened. The spotlight hit Dean's face. And for one terrifying second he froze. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't remember why he was there. Then he heard it. In the front row, a woman's voice, clear and loud. "We love you, Dean." And just like that, something shifted. Dean smiled. Not the megawatt smile of his youth. A smaller, sadder, but genuine smile. He walked to the microphone. The applause grew louder. People were standing, crying, reaching toward the stage. Dean gripped the microphone stand to keep from shaking. He looked out at the sea of faces, and he spoke. "Thank you for coming tonight. I gotta be honest with you. I almost didn't make it. Not because of traffic, but because I've been hiding for 4 years. Hiding from life. Hiding from you. Hiding from myself." The room was absolutely silent. "My son died. Some of you know that. Dean Paul, best kid in the world. And when he died, a part of me died with him. I thought I was done. Thought I'd never sing again. Thought I'd never feel anything but sadness again." His voice cracked. He paused, steadied himself. But a very pushy friend convinced me to come here tonight, told me that my son would want me to live, would want me to sing, would want me to be me, and I think he was right. Dean looked toward the wings where Frank was standing, tears streaming down his face. Thank you, Pally, for not giving up on me. Then Dean turned back to the audience. I can't promise you a great show tonight. I can't hit the notes like I used to. Can't move like I used to. Can't be who I used to be. But I can give you me, what's left of me. And maybe that's enough. He nodded to the band. They started playing Everybody Loves Somebody. Dean's voice was rough, weak in places. He forgot some lyrics and had to make up words, but none of that mattered. Because what came through wasn't technical perfection. It was pure, raw emotion. Every note carried the weight of his grief. Every word was a goodbye, not just to the audience, but to his son, to his career, to his old life. By the second verse, the entire audience was singing along, not to cover his mistakes, but to lift him up, to carry him through. When the song ended, Dean was exhausted, shaking, but smiling, really smiling. He did 3 more songs. Frank came out and they did a duet. Dean forgot half the words. Frank covered for him, making it seem intentional, making it funny. The audience loved every second. After 45 minutes, Dean had nothing left. He looked at Frank, who nodded. Time to wrap it up. Dean addressed the audience one last time. I want to thank you, all of you, for letting me do this, for letting me say goodbye. Not just to you, but to a part of myself I thought was dead. You gave me a gift tonight. You reminded me that even when you're broken, even when you've lost the most important person in your world, there are still moments of beauty, still reasons to show up, still people who care. The applause was deafening, a standing ovation that lasted 10 minutes. Dean just stood there, tears running down his face, letting it wash over him. Backstage, after the curtain closed, Dean collapsed into a chair. Frank rushed over. You did it, Dino. You actually did it. Dean looked up at him, exhausted, but somehow lighter. I did, didn't I? Your son would be so proud. Dean's voice was barely a whisper. I felt him up there, Frank. I swear I felt him, like he was watching, like he was saying, that's my dad. Frank broke down then, completely broke down. Sobbing, he pulled Dean into a hug and just held him, 2 old men, both broken by life, both holding each other up. I love you, Dano, Frank said, through his tears. I love you too, Pally. Thank you for saving my life tonight. That was Dean Martin's final performance. He never performed publicly again. The cancer and emphysema took over. His body continued to fail. On Christmas Day, 1995, Dean Martin died in his Beverly Hills home. He was 78 years old. Frank Sinatra spoke at his funeral. He told the story of that final performance, of how Dean had been terrified, of how he'd almost quit halfway through, of how he'd found the strength to finish. Dean taught me something that night, Frank said, his voice breaking. He taught me that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being terrified and doing it anyway. He taught me that grief doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be the beginning of a different chapter. And he taught me that showing up, even when you're broken, is sometimes the bravest thing you can do. Frank paused, wiping his eyes. My friend is gone. But that night at Bally's, that night, he came back. Not the old Dean, but a new Dean. A Dean who'd been through hell and found his way back. And for 45 minutes, he gave us all a gift. He showed us that even in our darkest moments, there's still light, still music, still love. The lesson isn't complicated. Life breaks all of us. We all lose people we can't live without. We all face moments where giving up seems easier than going on. But Dean Martin taught us something in his final performance. He taught us that showing up matters, that letting people see your pain doesn't make you weak. It makes you human, that doing the thing you love, even when it hurts, even when you're scared, even when you're broken, is an act of courage. Dean walked onto that stage in 1991, not because he wanted to, but because his son's memory deserved it, because his friend believed in him, because somewhere deep inside he still had one more song to sing, and in singing it, broken voice and all, he gave everyone in that room permission to be broken too, permission to grieve, permission to struggle, permission to keep going, even when everything hurts. That's Dean Martin's final gift. Not the smooth vocals, or the cool persona, or the effortless charm, but the willingness to be vulnerable, to be real, to show us that legends cry too, that icons grieve too, that the king of cool was, at the end, just a father who missed his son and found the courage to sing about it. Frank never fully recovered from Dean's death. He'd lost his best friend, his brother, the guy who understood him better than anyone, but he kept that final performance close to his heart, kept the memory of Dean, standing under that spotlight, broken but singing, as proof that love is stronger than grief, that friendship can carry you through the impossible, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply show up. One more time,